Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our session by the title of Generating Management Support in Microsoft 365 Adoption Projects. We are really looking forward to spend the time with you and talking about this subject because it is a real important subject, and I think it has gained importance over the last couple of months. And in this session, we hope to explore together with you why this is and what you can do to really leverage what is going on the adoption front and especially on the management front. Your speakers today is me. My name is Lucas Badiger. I work at iSolutions, and there I have the role of a team lead, and I'm specialized in the topic of adoption and change management. That's what I do there. I've been working with SharePoint since 2010. That's when I started, coming from the technical side. And then with time, I developed more and more my consulting skills. And actually right now, my specialty is these change management projects with our customers. Before that, I was also doing some academy stuff. So really training young people in using Microsoft 365 tools, or before that, SharePoint tools. So that's a little bit on my background. And I'm very happy to hold today's presentation with David Schneider, who will quickly introduce himself.
Yes, hello everybody. My name is David Schneider. I'm a CTO at iSolutions, and I also run the Barcelona office. I'm working with SharePoint since 2004, and nowadays I also use a lot Office 365 and Dynamics 365. And beside of that, I'm a Microsoft MEP for Office apps and services and a region director. And I'm really looking forward to help this presentation together with you, Lucas. But first, you came up with the idea to do this, to talk about this topic. What was the reason behind it?
Well, my main reason was basically because I was in the situation in the last 2 years more often, where I really had to talk to top management people on how to use Microsoft 365 in leading together, but also how Microsoft 365 in general will just support them. So I got really interested in the topic. I found out that it's actually not that difficult to do that. And also there's some really interesting stuff happening along the way of exploring those, or talking to those people. So that's what got me motivated. And after spending this time with people, I also learned that it's really, really important to talk to management directly about the benefits of those tools. But we'll get to that in just a second.
Okay, cool. So, but I guess then if you had a lot to do with management people, I guess you have a lot of funny story to tell. Can you give us some example how like top management adapt these modern collaboration technologies?
There is a lot of stories, and there can be considered funny. Sometimes you also think, well, maybe it's not so funny. But one thing I was really surprised by and really stood out to me is when I talked to some of the leaders of one of the major or one of the larger companies in Switzerland, where I'm based, by the way, I found out that they have a really interesting way of working, of getting their daily work done. Actually, it looks a lot like this, what I'm showing here. It's basically based on paper, and what it is, it's not only paper, it's actually a briefing of every day. So these top management people would get in the morning, they would get a briefing with the entire day. It has a printout of the schedule of the day. This is basically really a screenshot of Outlook. It also has like a section for every meeting that they will be in, holding all the information about what they need to prepare and so on. And it goes as far as people actually having printed out emails and secretaries preparing for the top management people slots in where they can really work on those emails. So that was a level of administration and a level also of non-digital working that I was not expecting to see when talking to top management. That was a really interesting starting point actually to get off and talk about this stuff. So that will be my introduction story, so to say.
Yes, you're right. So it's not a funny story, you're right, it's more a scary story. So it's even more important to this session here. So let's start.
Yes, let's get into it. And so we actually decided to make this a really simple session. I once learned you have to start with something, tell a little bit of the story. They did now set that story up perfectly. We talked about that management and the paper that they are using. And then you usually talk about 3 points. My 3 points are very easy, or our 3 points are very easy. It's the why, the how, and the what of generating management support. And then at the end, of course, we'll end with a call to action so everybody can take something out of this session and really benefit from the things that we have covered today. So that's the plan, 3 simple steps, and then a short call to action wrap up. And then we'll be here to handle some of your questions if you have any. So please note them down and make sure you're ready to ask us questions once we get there. But first, let's start with first things first. Let's start with the why. So the why is really a section where I want to answer the question why we actually need to generate management support. Some of you might ask, well, I'm rolling out Microsoft 365. Basically, this is about maybe bringing down the cost of operation, for example, for my previous on-premise SharePoint, or it's just about, sticking to the release plan of Microsoft. Why would I have to talk to top management about this? And this is really what I want to emphasize on now in this first section. So first of all, let's start with a short question, and I let you think about this for a minute. The question is really this: how much percentages of the success of a Microsoft 365 rollout, in your opinion, is dependent on people? And by people, I mean on how the people cope with what is going on and how they adopt of what is going on. So how many percentages of the success of your Microsoft 365 rollout is actually dependent not on technology, but on people? I'll let you think about this for a minute. I would be happy to take 1 or 2 answers, but because this is pre-recorded, I only have basically 1 person in the audience. So David, maybe what's your take? How many percentages of the success of a Microsoft 365 rollout is dependent on the people?
A lot is dependent on the people. I would say like 60 or 70%.
Yes, I would agree with that. I would also say it's a lot actually that is dependent. Why is this? If we are introducing a new ERP system, for example, we are in the company, then we are talking about the core processes of a company that are being changed. Now with Microsoft 365, we're not really doing that. We're in a way, we're touching on very many processes, but it's not very much specific. Now, if you are touching one specific process, like for example, the sales process within a company, then it's easy to force everybody to adapt because otherwise they just won't be able to do it. Another great example is, for example, a tool for billing. If you introduce a tool for billing and people don't or choose not to use it, then your company is not going to send out bills, and pretty soon things will not happen in your company anymore, and your company will no longer exist. But when it comes down to collaboration and communication, things are a little different. They still affect very many of our processes, but if people choose not to adapt to them, then the company is not necessarily going to go down. However, what is going to happen is the return on invest on your program is really going to decrease dramatically, because it's really dependent on if people really start to engage in the tools and really change the way they work together. That is where almost all of the return of the invest in a Microsoft 365 program is at, taking apart maybe the server, the cost you can save by not having to maintain server. That of course is handled differently, but everything else, all your calculations about becoming more efficiency, all your nice words about attracting young talent will only come to life if people really start to use the team. That's why I drew this little car here with only 2 wheels. And it's to symbolize this, it's almost like a symbiosis. It's the people, it goes together with the return on invest. So we really have to work on the people side of our Microsoft 365 rollout. And that is the first very important reason why we have to gain management support. It's because it's about people, and people are managed by top management, obviously. And one conclusion you can draw from this is one I think is really crucial. And that is that the Microsoft 365 is not only, or I put here on the slide a little more dramatic, is not a technical project. Of course, there's technical elements to it. So we have to do a Exchange Online migration plan. We have to do a cloud migration strategy, all of that stuff, and it's really technical. But it's much more than it is a technical project. It is a change management project. It's about managing the change and making sure that people really understand how they can benefit from those tools and that they actually start to do it. So that is why I'm saying Microsoft 365 programs are much more change management projects or programs than they are technical programs. And when it comes to change management programs, there's actually one set of studies that I think is really interesting, and it's actually the studies that ProSky is doing. It's an organization that is making surveys with many companies going through significant changes and understanding what are the key success factors in driving successful change. And one thing that is coming on top of the list since 1998, it's a biannual survey, it's done every 2 years, the survey, is that the number one contributor to successful change projects is the active and visible sponsorship. And now I have to explain a little bit. Sponsorship in that sense is not only the sponsor who is actually paying for the program, but it's actually the person that has influence, and that can be multiple person, or you could also say the sponsorship is not just one person, but it's actually your management, to use a broader way. So that's why I'm coming to the conclusion that actually having active and visible and engaged management is one of the key success factors in actually rolling out Microsoft 365 successful. So that is my first why it is so important to really engage your top management and make sure they understand why we are changing and why Office 365 or Microsoft 365 is being rolled out. There's one other factor I'd like to highlight to you, and that is the factor of actually training people. Because if you want to make people change, then one thing you have to do is you have to make them aware of the change. You have to somehow get them desired to change. But then at some point, you will also have to work on the knowledge and the ability to change. And that has a lot to do actually with training. Now, if we are in a small company, let's say 50 people, then changing from a way of working to maybe Microsoft 365's way of working by collaborating is maybe not as complicated, because basically you can still handle 50 people. You can organize a lunch session with everybody. You can have the CEO explain how things work, and everybody, hopefully, if the culture is nice at the company, then everybody will already engage and like the general idea of the change that we are pursuing. But let's picture a company that is much larger than this. Let's picture a company, for example, that is multinational. Let's picture a company where we have multiple, very many workplaces, thousands of workplaces. In such a company, it's not as easy to do. It's actually much more complicated to train people. And one thing you need for that is you will probably need a way to scale this up. And from my perspective, the best way of scaling this up is by actually training champions. So building a really strong champions community that is passionate about the Microsoft 365 change and that really spreads the word to other people. But in order for them to do this, they will need a certain amount of time. I put here, it's just an average. I would say it's about maybe 5% a week at the minimum that people will use during the rollout peak time. It's probably going to be much more. Champions will need to just support their colleagues and their peers in making sure everybody understands how this works. So, so this is, if you think about it, if you have many champions in the company, this is a large portion of working hours that could be spent in a different way. And if you really want to succeed in introducing such a program, then you will also need management support for this. So it's not only that you need the management support for your Microsoft 365 program going well in general and being perceived well, you also need it in order for you to be able to scale your training and make sure you have people in every kind of subdivision, and it would be a whole other discussion what kind of subdivisions there is in a large company, but let's keep that for another day. But that you have people in every subdivision that are really able to go into a group, understand the problem, and kind of give the solutions with Microsoft 365, so they can really start working together more efficiently. So the champions are crucial, and in order for you to really have a solid champions program, you will need some management support at some level. So that is the why, basically. That is why we really need management support. It's a key factor. And this will bring us to the next questions. Obviously, now we've laid down the foundation and we talked about why we actually need it. Let's talk about how we can generate management support. And we're going to do it like this. First of all, what I would like to do is give you a really practical tool of identifying who is the management people that you actually need to influence, and then reflect with you a little bit on what you could do to actually generate that management support. So let me quickly move over to that slide, and I will start explaining this slide at the bottom. At the bottom left actually is where you can see where this comes from. Though this is again a slide that is taken from ProSky, and it is called the sponsorship map. Again, here sponsorship is not only about one person giving the money, but it's about multiple persons having influence on other groups of persons and how we can make sure they really like what we're doing. So on the bottom line, basically, of that slide, you can see different departments of a company. This is fictional. It's not the real company. It's just an example to show you how it works. And so you can see different departments of that company. This is not necessarily 100% what you will find in your org chart, but this is an attempt to identify the groups of people who are somehow controlled, or not necessarily controlled, but influenced by a certain person. So let's say, for example, here we have the logistics. This is a group that as a whole is influenced by one person. It's this person here by the abbreviation of DC. But here maybe the next one is actually the sales region 1. And you can see the sales regions are actually split into 2, because there's probably one region where some person is influencing the one region, and then another person is influencing the other region. And so this is what you're doing. You're basically identifying the groups of people that you need to influence in a way or another, and then you identify the people who are able to influence those people. So these are the sponsors, so to say, of that particular group. So usually that would be the manager of, for example, the head of logistics, if we stick to the left example here, the left row that we have. And then you work your way on top, and you try to identify all the people who are influencing the people, so to say, below them. It's a really hierarchical view. I'm not really a fan of this strictly hierarchical, but it's about who is influencing who, basically. And with that, you will identify a couple of things. One thing you will almost always identify is the person who is, in ProSky terms, called your primary sponsor. Is he able to influence everybody that needs to be influenced? Because if he's not, then you will probably need some strong support from somewhere higher in your organization. That is one of the key takeaways. Then one of the things you do, once you've identified this entire structure, you try to find out actually how these persons will react to the change. And then ProSky offers a number of tools to do that. I'm not going to go into detail, but basically you identify if they are going to be effective in supporting what you want to do. So the question now is, what do we do in case there is people here, and there will always be people on sponsorships map like this, who are not effective in bringing about the change that we want to bring about. So let's reflect for 1 minute just on what we can do if people, for example, don't, if we expect them to have a negative attitude towards the change that is coming with Microsoft 365. And let's maybe use the person here on the very right-hand side. Here you can see the IT with the gray background. So it's an I point, T point. Let's say that person, for example, would not like the change that we are about to pursue. There's a couple of tactics now I can use. I can use the tactic of actually using the person who is directly influencing them. So I could talk to that person or make my primary sponsor, which I'm responsible or which I'm in direct contact with, talk to that other person that will be able to influence that person. So that is the basic tactic. So you can always try and use this structure to influence somebody and let them maybe use meetings that they have anyway to talk about this. And one thing you can also do is you can do this with peers. Many times peers have a great influence into one another. So if you have people on the same level that are in the same, let's say, management team, they are really good in kind of convincing each other of the ideas. And then all you have to do is you have to come up with a compelling message, obviously, that you have to tell them in order for them to support or to turn from maybe a negative attitude towards a positive attitude. And that's the next thing we really want to talk about, how you can frame a message that will resonate with people in management. And who would be better to do that than David, who is himself a member of iSolutions and has been in many discussions about this. So David, please take over and talk a little bit about how you could actually frame that message.
Yes, thank you, Lucas. Yes, let's talk about how you can trigger people like this, these sponsors or influencer who are not under the influence of the primary sponsor, using a compelling vision or a compelling message for your digital workplace. So one solution could be that you start thinking, or that you link your digital workplace strategy with the company's vision. First, you need to know what is your company's vision. And I have some examples here from other companies. One is like to bring innovation and inspiration to every athlete in the world. This is from Nike. Then we have another is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. This is from Microsoft, obviously. We have to make sustainable living commonplace. This is from Unilever. We have to make digital life simpler and more stylish. This one, this vision is from Apple. And the last one is our vision is that all our operations are run in a way that is economically, socially, and environmentally sustainable. This one is from H&M. So you see different visions. Some of them are targeting more to the customers, other more to the operations, how they do things, and you need to know, or you should know the vision of your company, of your customer, of the company you're developing this M365 project, and then you can think about how can you link your workplace message to this vision. And it depends, well, like what is relevant, like what is the vision and what is relevant for the sponsor or for the person you want to influence. And there's some samples here, like if the vision is talking about customers, you can say, hey, we can work from anywhere and we can co-author on documents. If the company's vision is more about innovation or bringing new products to the market, it's about collaboration and it's about speed, that you're faster. If the mission is to transform the business model, it's about perhaps ad hoc collaboration or breaking down information silos. And if it's more about operation excellence and like established process, then it could be like that using the Microsoft 365 digital workplace, we can digitalize processes or we can increase the IT security. So it depends a lot. What is the vision? Who you want to trigger with this message, and what does your program, your Microsoft 365 program, really deliver? So linking into the vision, to the mission or the strategy of a company is one part. The other solution could be that you like go more on the pain side. Like every management team has concerns, has pains they need to solve. like the war for talent is a common pain. It's also a common trigger to invest in a digital workplace, or that you want to be more efficient. Like efficiency is another management concern. It's also that you want to harvest the full employee capabilities and like use your workforce in a better way. Nowadays, it's also about working from remote. So offering work from home could be as another message that you can link to your digital workplace. Then we have the agility, that you're more agile, that you can have more speed in developing new products or serving your customers. And the last pain point could be money, that you want to save money thanks to a new digital workplace based on Microsoft 365. So there is no like slide that you can copy paste in your presentation. You have to define a compelling vision for your digital workplace based on what your company is doing, what your company's mission is, and who you want to trigger and who you want to like influence with this message.
That makes a lot of sense, David. And do you have an example of such a compelling digital workplace vision that you've come across in your career?
So I have some examples. One is I know a company, they are doing products today and they want to like shift their business more to a service business. So they want to sell services on top of their products. And they said they need to have a digital workplace to drive this change and to change the business of the like to transform the business. Another example is about a company says, hey, we need to be to have a digital workplace because we need to attract young talents. We have a lot of people who will be like reaching the age of 65 and leaving the company for retirement, and we need to replace them by young talents, and for them we need to offer a digital workplace. Or a third example is that a company said, hey, we have different kind of business units, they're offering different kind of products to different customers, and they said, hey, we want to offer all our customer all our products and services. So they're using the digital workplace to offer this cross business unit collaboration and to offer a 360 degrees view on the customer. So these are three like specific examples to link the vision for the digital workplace with the vision of the company.
Mm-hmm. Those are really good, and I think they're really great examples of showing how it's actually about how you make it more than a technical program. You make it almost, it's a change in the company that you're triggering, and you're almost using your Microsoft 365 rollout as an enabler and something that speeds up that process. And in order for you to be able to do that, you really need to be able to link with management and understand what they are doing. And if you are doing this, however, the reward is all the greater because you'll get so much support. It will just be a lot more fun and a lot much easier to actually get things done. Thank you very much. So now we've talked about actually the message that we need to bring across, and now we want to get maybe even a little bit more practical, because we're turning into the what. And one thing I'm really doing, or I have been doing many times, is actually giving top management people presentations on how they could benefit from Microsoft 365 tools in their everyday work. So what they do every day and how they can actually leverage the tools there. And I mean, of course, all of you can imagine that you can obviously come up with a demo like this, but what I would like to do now is we would really like to show you a demo. And if you're going to see the demo, this will not be the kind of demo where you will think, I've never seen this feature before. But what you should take out of this demo is that all that we are showing here is actually ways that management boards that we've come across are working together as of today. So none of this is made up, is something like we think, oh, that could be nice, but all of this is actually real world examples. And what we want to do with this demo is really to show you the kind of ways that management are using these tools and also highlight to you why it is beneficial for them. So with that being said, David and I will actually now jump into our management suits, let's put it like that, and show you a little demo on how this can work on an everyday basis. And I will stop the presentation now and actually start sharing my screen, because the first thing I would like to show you is not really on my, it's not really on the presentation. It's not even on my computer. It's actually on my mobile phone. So here I have my mobile phone connected, and you should be able to see the screen here now. And so now I'm in the role of this, of the global management board member of this Experience Corner Incorporation. That's the company we're using for today's presentation. So this is now how their teams look like. And you see, they actually have a global management board team that they are using for their everyday operation. Let me quickly walk you through that one. For example, here you can see the general channel, and you can see that this has become the main communication link for actually the board members. So here there's an announcement that David actually did earlier this week. You can see David's actually also putting stuff in there. So it's a really interactive, fast things going on here. You see one other example here is there is a forms survey in here. So you could do quick surveys and ask questions to your colleague. This is also a really nice thing to do. And you can do it directly within Teams. It's using the Forms chatbot. Some of you may know that. And if I click further up, one thing you could also see is David actually shared an interesting book. And what this really shows you is that this is also a great way to communicate on knowledge. There's a new message. Let me go down. You can see David actually telling me something. Let me quickly reply to him because it's so fast on my mobile phone. Let me actually do this just because it's fun. I'm going to make a picture of my setup here. Picture and picture and picture. Send that out. It's that easy. Send it, zack, and everybody has that picture now available. So some of you might think, why is this relevant for top management? Well, the reason why this is relevant for top management is because you would be astounded by how many top management people around the world are actually having WhatsApp groups where they discuss things together. And maybe as an IT person, one thing you really don't want is your maybe company secrets being shared through WhatsApp. And with this, people really get a great way of communicating. And the good thing, this is only where the story starts. It goes much, much further than this. And let me show you actually how this works. If I go back again to my channel overview, you can also see that there's not only the general channel, but there's multiple channels. And one channel where I actually have a new message is my board meetings channel. So let me go into that one. You can actually see here, there's a praise in that one as well. So you see the kind of interactive ways of doing things. And just that praise functionality as well is really a great way of showing how you can also maybe adapt to a culture that is different. So adapt to a culture in where you actually try to leverage each other instead of maybe pushing each other down. Another really interesting topic that is more about management styles, though, in general. But you can see tools can help you leverage this. If I scroll up here, I can actually see that all the communication about the meetings, and trust me, for management board meetings in large companies, there's lots of conversations going on to prepare, is actually happening within this channel. So it's all in one place, it's all in Teams, and it's all accessible mobile. So one thing here, you see the minutes from our October meetings, for example, they have been posted here. They are stored actually on the SharePoint site behind this Teams, but what they are basically is they are an export of a OneNote being taken and just stored on that Teams. And the benefits of this is that this is a legal a document that cannot be changed. So it's possible to follow up in a legal case what has actually happened to this document, which is very important in top management situations. Another thing you can see here, David has shared a presentation that is going to be relevant for the next board meeting. So he wants this to be added to the backlog of what is being worked on. And I can easily open now this presentation and just scroll to it and have a first glance and first look at it on my mobile phone. Top management people spend lots of time on their way. Sometimes their main device is not a laptop, but is maybe an iPad or a tablet of some sort. So this kind of functionality is really great for them and really helps them to leverage from the tools in their everyday life. And if you show examples like this to top management people, most of them will you will at least have their attention, and you'll be able to talk to them about how this could become a reality for them. So you can see here it's our board meetings channel, lots of conversations going on before the board meeting is actually happening. But in order for the board meeting to happen, obviously somebody has to do some preparation, and that is usually a task that is not being done on my mobile phone. And to show you how this preparation is done, let me hand over again to David, who will demonstrate how we can get ready for that management meeting. David, you're still on mute.
About that, so now it's better.
Yes.
Yeah, I said that now I'm charged to prepare a board meeting. I will use Microsoft 365 functionalities for this. We have in our board meetings channel, we have a tab where our OneNote is linked, and I will simply once it's loaded, like copy, because normally we have kind of the same agenda. So I will just copy the last meeting minutes. I will change the title. I could now delete some information if I want, but let's skip that. I can like add some topics, some agenda points, discuss the feedback from let's say from the leadership team. I can also link files. The files we put on the SharePoint side, which is linked to our team site. I just copy a link here and then add this link to our OneNote again, and now I'm kind of ready. And what I can do now is I need to copy a link to the OneNote, and I want to ask my colleagues in the board meeting channel that, or I tell them the agenda is ready for tomorrow. Please add your add a link, and with this my colleagues, they get a push notification and they can quickly interact. They can load the agenda and add their meeting points as well to the meeting. Now during the meeting, let's assume that we don't have an assistant, and I'm the guy who has to write the protocol, so I can write the meeting minutes here. So I can add my meeting minutes. Feedback was good, but perhaps we have to like follow up on something. So what I can do is add a task in Planner, ask feedback from HR, and I assign this task to Lucas. He should also do something. And then what I then can do is I can copy a link to the task and add this link again to my meeting minutes. So now everything is linked. We have the agenda item with the documents which is linked. We have the meeting minutes and the task. And this task is in Planner, so it's automatically in the to-do of Lucas, and he will be aware of it and should work on it. And finally, so when we are done with this meeting, I just simply could export this PDF page to this OneNote page to a PDF and store it again on our SharePoint, and then it's kind of safe and nobody can change it. So this is one way to organize and run a meeting. And now I will give back to you, Lucas.
Yes. So now meeting is over, and obviously there's still work to do. So actually David assigned me a task out of that meeting. And so what I'd like to do now is really take a look in how I can, as a board member, work on those tasks. So one question that I really get asked a lot is, it's nice to have like this sort of digital task, but where do I get my overview of all the tasks that I'm having? And the good thing is that the overview, you can actually get it right now in Teams. So you can have your planner tab here and just navigate to that one. And then here, I really get that overview of all the tasks that have been assigned to me. So it doesn't matter if they're from the executive board, if there's a Corona task force that I'm part of, where I also have tasks. And I can really take a look at those maybe in the plan view to make sure that I can start working on those things and really see what has priority, what I really need to do right now. And of course, dive into the task. So let's maybe take a look at that one. I can add notes, do all the great things that I have in Planner. So this is usually something that I would show to management, because really task management is something that is on everybody's list of doing. And this is just a really simple, straightforward way of doing it. It's much easier than what I see many times as a good practice is actually to have all the tasks in the minutes and then go over all the tasks again at the end of or at the beginning of every next weekend. The problem, the next weekend, it's the next meeting, obviously, not the weekend. The problem with that scenario is that if a task is a long-running task, so it's only due in maybe half a year, it will be talked about every single meeting. But when you actually do it in the planner board and you link the planner board in the beginning of the meeting, in the notes, as David has shown, then you can always take a look at the planner board with the entire board and take a look at the urgent stuff and make sure you reschedule things and you have sort of one version of truth, but that is also dynamic in a sense that people can react to it. So that is a real benefit, but you can also see how this comes with a real way of changing the way you work together. So this is usually something we would start introducing to management boards maybe a little later in the process, even though it might seem trivial to you from your perspective. One example I really want to show you as well is one thing that happens in management, obviously, many times is you have to get approvals. And we've seen it in companies actually done through Teams. Let me show you an example of this. I'm navigating back to my global management board Teams. And what I'll show you now is the HR topics channel. And in the HR topics channel, there is a process actually established that for new key hires, the person responsible from the management board to hiring, there's always one person responsible, has to make a post about this person. You can also add a picture here, thanks to the possibilities of Teams, and maybe link the information about this person. Now, what has to happen now is a majority of the board has to agree with hiring that person. And the way they express that is by actually just giving a like here. So every board member now could come here and give a like for this. I can see David has already given his like. So I'm having his vote, and let's hope I get the others so we can really hire Alois Miller to make sure that we're really set up for the future. One thing I can also see here is there's a question here. So David says, let me read, it seems to be a great win. Looking at this profile, I think it's important to introduce him to our processes in a solid way. I think that's a great hint for his onboarding plan. So I'll just thank David and let him know that I'll consider this. And what you can see here is really that sort of interaction you're getting. I don't have to call David or do anything. I could write this a message from my mobile phone, from my PC. I can directly see that David has actually already read it because he liked it. So really the interaction gets much faster and things can be done much smoother. He's actually also replying, I'm liking this a lot, so giving him my heart reaction. So this is another great way of showing how the tools can really benefit and make processes much faster in a very straightforward and very simple way. Again, nothing complicated here, just a way of organizing things, and things can really start to change for your management. I'd like to finish now with this short demonstration. And this is also the conclusion of our section where we talk about the management support and what we can actually do. So performing demos like this is something that we've experienced as a very effective thing when it comes to really showing the benefits of those tools and starting to get management into discussions about what the benefits could also be for them, and let them act as role models so they can also lead that change in their company. So with that, we have covered the 3 points that we wanted to cover from the beginning. And let me just end on that note and really quickly go back to my presentation, because I really want to end this presentation with an encouragement, because some of you may have looked at this presentation or about the things we've shown you now, and you may have thought, this is not really complicated. And I agree with you. If you are coming from a technical background, what you've seen so far is not really rocket science. It's nothing complex. It's nothing that you probably couldn't do. But nevertheless, it's very effective to do it with management. It's very effective to really go there, take the time and link the things that you want to do with the company vision, and then show them what's in it for me, what they can get out of the tools, how they can become faster, how they can make sure they work together in a better way, and how they can also act as role models. Because many management people, they really want to act as role models. They understand the necessity of this, but it's really hard for them to understand how to do it. So this is how you can really help them and make sure things are going well. So that's why I'd really want to encourage everybody actually listening to this now to take your time and go and talk to your management. They will appreciate a lot what you have to say. It's not just about technical stuff. It's really about the change happening in your organization. And they will love to hear from people who are passionate about this and who really can connect this in a way that they understand it. And this will, in a sense, really help to drive just entirely the digitalization in every project that you are part of. And that in turn will also lead to people really liking their workplace a lot more. So it's, I think from my perspective, really going out and generating that management support is a great thing to do. And I would really encourage you to really do that and go into your management and make sure you get those people onboarded, because it will make a big change. And with that, this is it from our side. Thank you very much for your attention, and we'll be happy to answer your questions just after this video has ended. Thank you very much.
Lucas, I have one question. You're not prepared for it, but can you tell us how it went out with the story that you told us at the beginning, like the story with these physical folders and the paper? Were you able to change the way of working of this management team?
For some of them, I would say, the passive answer. So for some of them, it was really hard that they've been doing this forever. And this company, they have financial constraints, but like the way this is done, this process is really established. So it's kind of, it was really, really hard to break through that. What we managed is that it actually became a process that is no longer physical, but it is actually digital, so that people really get this information, say on their OneDrive, for example, and they can take a look at it from their iPad. So that is one thing that has actually happened. But really turning away from this way of organizing, it happened for some people. Some of them were really able to do that. And for others, this was just not the first step. And for me, that is okay. It's not always you have to change everything with one go. Maybe that was another thing For example, how they prepare their meetings or how they do task management. So there's other things where they really benefited. Also, how to take notes, or even how to work with their OneDrive. These are already small steps, and sometimes you have to be okay with small steps. What doesn't work is there's small steps for all the top management. Then probably you need at least somebody or 2 or 3 people who are really passionate about this and driving it. But yeah. That's how it went. That's how it turned out.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
And for all the other questions, see you soon.
Yes, great. Thanks a lot.